This podcast provides a platform for our guests to express their own personal views and opinions. Some or all of these views and opinions may not be shared by Ben and/or Yoel.
Welcome to the Too Dad to Quit podcast.
The podcast where we highlight stories of dads on the other side of divorce.
To inspire and give strength to dads going through it.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Yoel.
Before we get started, I want to remind you all to subscribe, like, share, review. It really helps in our rankings and getting the word out so we can help more and more dads, and we really appreciate it. If you're interested in sharing your story, please go to toodadtoquit.com. This week, we have Abie Shammah, who is originally from Brooklyn. He ended up living in Jerusalem and somehow managed to end up being a professional dog walker. It's quite the story. He's quite a character. He has quite the background, and it was really just a really nice conversation, a little longer than usual, but I think it's worth every minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only is his dog walking story fascinating, but it's also amazing to see how much effort and enthusiasm, I would say, he puts into being a dad to his son. He's really intentional about it. And as has been the case with quite a few of our other guests, he himself was the child of divorce. His parents divorced when he was 10 months old. And he obviously made a decision that he's going to be very much involved in his son's life. He has joint custody with his ex-wife, 50-50. And he even says that's not enough. Like, he wants as much time as he can. He really wants to soak it in. And he's also very intentional about the lessons that he shares with his son. He talked about being firm, but fair. And that's a theme that really rings true as you listen to everything he has to say.
Yeah, and also sharing, the way he wants to parent. His father wasn't around, and he feels like something was missing growing up, and he wants his son not to have that. And he's trying to parent his son as the father he never had, which is a very, very powerful way to raise a child. And he's got some great stories. You know, when you're walking 20 plus dogs, there's always a fun story in there. And I think it was our most, upbeat, and it was just a great conversation that flowed really well. All transparency, I know Abie from high school, and he became Yoel's neighbor later in life.
That's right. And our kids are friends. Yeah.
So it's full circle, and enjoy.
Putting your shoes on, because whenever I watch interviews, I'm always like, good thing that guy's wearing case of a fire. Fucking 48 stairs to run down.
Are we recording already?
And recording for a long time.
Oh, wonderful. We've got our good friend, Abie Shammah, on the podcast. Super excited to have you. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
For sure, man. Abie is from Brooklyn, New York, originally. Moved to Israel 13 years ago.
Yeah, 2009.
2009. Okay. Abie has a son, and he's 10 years old, right?
10 years old.
10 years old. Yeah, my son is good friends with him. I'm happy to say. I'm ad-libbing that part. Abie's been divorced for coming on 8 years, right? New Year's.
Yeah, New Year's.
And a little bit about Abie, but he'll tell us more. You'll tell us more as the podcast progresses. Abie's constantly tinkering in the house. Okay, I want to hear about that. He loves to snowboard, which is interesting for the Middle East too. So we'll have to ask you about that. Skateboard, that I've seen you doing, and art, creating and consuming it. And I would say, I don't know if Abie would agree, maybe most famously known for his doggy daycare service and dog walking service. And I can say personally, I've seen it with my own eyes. I don't know what your record is for how many dogs you've walked at a time, but it's really, I've snapped pictures before I knew who you were. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass because you're sitting here, but I've heard amazing things about you.
Thank you.
I have clients. We have overlapping clients. It's happened a few times.
Sure.
I've gone to a client, and Abie's picking up a dog from a client.
It happens a lot.
Other clients are like, "Oh, I'm going to be meeting Abie, so I'm going to meet you right before I meet him." So Abie's got an amazing reputation.
Thank you.
Obviously, gives a good service. So welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
thanks
for sure.
Yeah.
So, Abie, we like to start the podcast by getting into you. What makes you you? How did your background, your family, your history?
Yeah.
Start wherever you'd like. Hopefully somewhere where you're talking.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was born in Brooklyn in the 80s. I'm Sephardic I'm Syrian, and right when I was born, my mom, she was looking into being Jose B'Tshuva, so to become more observant. Yeah, she was just raised, in America, kind of regular, and she wanted to get closer to being observant, and she put us all in an Ashkenaz school because she wasn't really familiar with the yeshiva system. So we all ended up going to a nice place in Brooklyn, and that kind of got me into both worlds, like Sephardic, Ashkenaz worlds, and I kind of floated, in between. So I had friends in both worlds, and
well, the religious and the secular world, you're saying?
No, more like Sephardic,
Ashkenazi.
Right,
Ashkenazi. Is there a translation for that for audience?
So
Germanic. No, it's like Eastern
European Jewry is Ashkenaz, and Sephardi is more Middle Eastern Jewish heritage.
I think they call it Oriental. I've seen in the books.
Not
Oriental, like from the Far East.
No, I know, but it's Western, Eastern, right? It doesn't Eastern, traditions.
Okay, cool.
So anyway. Yeah, we grew up like that, and
how many are we?
So I have 3 older sisters. I'm the youngest of the 3, and then 4 of us. And then my parents, they divorced when I was 10 months old. And they both remarried at some point. My mom remarried when I was a little older, so like 7 or 8. My dad a little bit sooner. And so they both had kids, more kids. So they both brought 3 each into the world. So we bumped up to about 10 of us, and it was a little bit of yours, mine, and ours. My stepmother had some kids, and my stepfather had a son. So we were a big family, and it was great. It was quite loving. And
they still married?
Who's that?
Your parents?
No,
not with each other, but
no. Sorry, because for a long time, my dad is divorced for quite a while now, and my mom passed away in 2008. So
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. But she's buried here in Jerusalem in Armenonville. So she's close by, I guess. You go on. So I grew up with my 3 older sisters. We were real close for those beginning years, and then as the family expanded, just kind of regular 80s, 90s New York. I went to college. I went to Brooklyn College. I have a degree in business management and finance.
I feel like you jumped high school.
I jumped high school. Oh, right.
You're really smart.
No, nothing really interesting happened. I did actually. I went down to Baltimore for a year. That's where I met Ben, actually, in TA Baltimore, and then went back to Brooklyn, Sephardic high school.
I want to apologize for everybody who was rough on you.
Ooh, no one's rough on me.
I don't know. I remember it was like the kid who came from Brooklyn, and he had the big attitude, and
could be.
You were a big person.
I literally
big personality.
I literally had a shirt that if you don't like my Brooklyn attitude, quit talking.
You came with a big persona.
I did, and I mean, I guess we'll get into that. But I personally, upon introspection, I realized that not having a dad around meant not having kind of like social cues given to you, and therefore, instead of it's not the community's job so much to be like, hey, this is how we do things. It's more like, whose kid is that? So it was definitely that guy, and it took a long time to figure it out, but I'm glad I did, because I definitely incorporate that now into my parenting. I have one son, like I said, 10-year-old son, and I parent from the perspective of what would I have wanted them to do for me? What would I want? How would I have wanted somebody to explain it to me when I was a kid in a way that would not be like critical, So constructive without criticism. And there's
like that.
Yeah, it's funny because Yogi Berra has all these like
yogiisms.
Yogiism. So I don't know. I just had this thing in my head, like instead of love thy neighbor like thyself, like love thy child like thyself. You know what I mean? And neighbors should be seen and not heard. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
So yeah. And the most recent one I came up with is I try to like focus on is be the change you want to see in yourself. I feel like no one's going to walk you through that door. You have to do that. So, so like I said, like, my mom worked real hard. She was up super early and she, multiple jobs during the day. And she was still super mom with, feeding us and shopping and laundry and all that. I participated in absolutely zero. I would like dig holes.
And you lived with everybody lived with your mom?
Yeah, my
it was back in the old lawyer days, legal days also.
I don't think it would have mattered. I don't think there was much of a. I mean, look, I don't know. I was way too young. I mean, I didn't. My dad was the nice man who brought presents for a long time. I didn't know.
How often did you see him, on average?
Again, from my memory looking back, it feels like maybe once a year, but it had to have been more.
Where did he live?
He lived in Jersey, and so
all the way in Jersey.
I know. 40 minutes. It's like a 40-minute drive, but again, like, and that's the other thing, right? Like, so in the beginning, I was like, okay, who are you? Okay, and then I was like, oh, dad, what's that? I was conscious that other people had fathers. I knew what a father was, but I didn't understand that. So when you grow up without something, you don't necessarily know what's lacking, which was also, coming into that, like, but, and then I went to like, it was 40 minutes away. You could have come visit once in a while. And then as I got older, I realized like, he had another family, he had a wife and kids, and their responsibilities are calling. And now I'm just sort of in between where it's like, there's a lot of responsibilities, but then this goes back into, doing what I would have wanted them to do for me. So like, like an example of that is, my son had a day in school that we would do fruit salad, and he forgot the melon at home. And I saw the melon and I was like, well, that sucks, And then I'm like, no, dude, that doesn't suck. Take it. So I took the melon, I drove and I brought it to school, because I wanted him to not be the one out. And it even came up this week. His school did like a project, an hour project, and they needed a cheese grater and a bar of soap.
I saw that on the WhatsApp group.
Right. That sounded quite the project.
Yes.
They grated soap to make air freshener bags for the car.
So you were the grater guy? You the one who brought the grater?
That's what happened.
It'd be greater than that.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh.
So it's all in Hebrew, and I skim for keywords. I don't necessarily.
I was trying to figure out what that word was, because I was like, what the hell is she asking for?
I messaged her, and she sent me a picture of it, and I was like, oh, thank God. So, and I'm like, oh man. I'm like, what is he doing with it? And then she said she's going to do it. And I'm like, okay, because I wouldn't want to send it just thumb, but if it's just going to have soap on it so I can clean it easy. So I was like, and then I realized like, he needs to have the equipment, the material, so send it. And we happen to have a bunch of bars of soap, like still in the package.
Really?
So yeah.
He's a bar of soap guy.
I am not a bar of soap guy at all.
As far as it's
I'll tell you how much of a non-bar of soap I had. My ex-wife bought them one of our trips to America. So probably like 2014, she bought like a huge pack from Walmart, and they've been with me from move to move ever since.
That's why your place smells so nice.
Right? So I still have like 6 or 8 bars because I'm not going to just throw them out, but I don't use them, So I was like, perfect. Exactly. Wow. By the way, I mean, that's kind of like one of the things you need to do as a dad, like hold on to something you're going to use,
Yeah. Like graters and bars of soap.
I have so many things, so I like 2-3 years down the line, it's exactly what I needed, and I mean, it's great. So the bars of soap, and you know what he said? He said he was the only one in the class that had both the soap and the grater.
Yeah.
Because I don't think she said to send soap. That was just my own thing. I was just like, you know what? Who knows what colors or scents she is going to have? Maybe, take it, get rid of it from my storage anyway. And that was a real moment of pride for me, because I was never the kid with the materials. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I would show up and be like, everyone's like, well, where's that? And I'm like, oh, did your parents not read the thing? And I'm like, parents?
Right. My daughter actually said to me last year when I've been picking them up from school, and she's like, Abba, Dad, you're always there. You're their dad. And I was like, what? She goes, whenever I need you, I just call you and you're there. You always answer. You're never too busy at work. And if I need you to come, you come.
That's great.
And I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah, good. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I mean that's a whole other dynamic. Having a daughter, like I don't even know from that angle, right? So from that,
princesses,
but I don't have any sisters. So you have a head up.
Right.
I don't know what it was like living with a woman or a girl or any of that.
Oh man, I know.
Yeah, awesome boys.
Yeah. So I know them really well.
Now you say you understand women? Wait, I just want to get this straight.
From you would take out the romantic part. I know everything about women from minus the romance and that. But what motivates whatever motivates that sector of their personality, I'm at a loss for. But as far as just like no, but it does come into play, and that's what I also realized. He doesn't get that naturally. I have to kind of make him aware of things like, reading a room, anticipating what somebody, might need, like, and reacting accordingly. So, I kind of like, I feel that energy that, like a group of women, when like, I don't know, I just, my mom, my grandmother, and my three sisters, like 5 women for many years. So just went to back off and stuff like that.
Wow. So you'll explicitly discuss it with your son, like you'll sort of show him the ropes, or you kind of like lead by example.
Man, he's got questions. He has so many questions. So yeah, so I'll break it down. I'll deconstruct as much as possible, and I'll explain both sides, even when it comes to his mom, like, this, and this, but you have to understand that there's this whole other side and you have to take this into account. So, but I feel like that's kind of most people when they're trying to explain things, they hopefully explain the full picture.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I'm curious, just to jump a little bit, but in terms of your relationship now with your dad, so it sounds like, he wasn't there as much as maybe you would have liked. And do you have a good relationship now, now that you're older and you're a dad yourself? Like, what's that like?
Well, okay. So in my 20s, I realized I'm the only one who's going to participate in this relationship. So I have to make the effort. So I started driving out there and going out. By the way, we never saw him much until my sister got a license. Once she got a license, then it was great because, we would go to Jersey for the weekend. So it was a great, we'd get away, we could load up in the car and go. So we were there more often. But in my 20s, when I realized I had to make an effort, I would go out more often. But he's very busy, and it didn't really stick in a sense. And I feel like it's not so much my place to walk him through what it means to take care of your children's emotional needs. So, he's old school. He's born in Syria. They got kicked out during the war, went to Lebanon, went to the States. So they have a very different outlook. Like he expects us to call every Friday before Shabbat. And I'm like, okay. Like I never lived with you. You need to call more Shabbat.
To this day,
he also became more observant?
No, he's traditional.
That's okay. It's always traditional Friday night.
Right. Like, wake up early and go to school, but then, also drive to school and Shabbat. Maybe not Shabbat. I don't know where he stands anymore. I never really lived with him. But yeah, so now it's like it's okay. Like he doesn't demand it. in a sense that, he writes on the group chats, like, so he starts doing that. He says Shabbat Shalom to everybody, and he wants to be involved, especially going through his second divorce. I think it also had an effect on him. And that's when I feel like he definitely remembered that he should cultivate this relationship with his kids from his first marriage. So there was a little bit more of a presence. This is quite a bit. And with my sisters, he's there a lot. Being in the States, he does. He's very involved with my sisters, my mom's kids. But because I live here, I guess that has some sort of difficulty. I don't know.
It could also be, maybe he's easier with a female than the male.
Sorry?
The guy father-son relationship is harder to.
I don't know. I think he sees as more of like the hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's anything to do with the genders. I just think that he thinks that everything's great. And I know, because I'm thinking like, okay, well, he's getting older. Am I supposed to like try? Like, what am I supposed to do? So I talk, we talk from time to time. I'll message him. When he writes in group chats, I'll respond. But like, I just feel like that ship has sort of sailed, and if it hasn't, it has to come from him, in a sense that I'm not the one who's looking at the end, who sees the end near and is like, oh man, I should probably make all of these changes or preparations that all, mankind does. When you're getting close to the end, you start to realize what's important and what's not, and what relationships you should have enriched and cultivated. So it's like futile if I were to kind of broach that. It's like too intrusive. It's also too intrusive. Like, I'm gonna come to him and be like, listen, you're getting, we should really catch up. Let's go have a catch. I mean, like, right?
Right.
So like,
right.
But I definitely feel that, again, and it's all like cyclical, because I refuse to then leave my son in the dark about everything, because I don't want him, to be lacking,
right?
Like social norms and just general knowledge, and also coming to me if he has, issues and stuff. And he's very comfortable coming to me. Like, I would never go to my dad because it just wasn't I'm not accustomed to it.
Right.
So,
does he ask you about your dad? Like, does he ask about his grandfather? Or?
My grandfather,
There is
my father, he's involved. Before Corona, he came a little bit more. But now, I haven't seen him since before Corona. And, also grandkids are a little different. Like, that's what I noticed also. Once I had a kid, it was like, oh, we got him something. I'm like, what about me? It's like skip right over. So, so he definitely, and he also has his namesake. We name after the living. So he, it's his. This is his only.
I was going to say, does he have other grandsons?
Not with the first and last name. My son is the only one, I think, who has both first and last name as my father. So it's like there's something to that. But
did your father? I'm just curious. Did your father's second divorce have any impact on you? Like because it sounds like you had a relationship with his kids, or you didn't at all.
No, good. We're good. I'm good with everybody in the family. Yeah,
even his kids. You're saying?
Yeah. Because I was their older brother, and
cool.
Yeah, so we hung out a lot. We would go away. My father's family, they would go on vacations more often. So when I got older and I could pay for my airfare or whatnot, then I would also go. So we hung out quite a bit. Yeah, I'm cool with everybody.
Where'd you get so did you grow up? I'm going back to what you do for a living with the dog walking. Did you grow up with a love of animals? I'm just curious, like, was that a part of your upbringing? Like, did your mom have pets in the house?
My mom loved animals, but we were not allowed to have a dog. or cat. That was like a no. My stepfather was like adamant, like no way. So we had all the workarounds you can imagine. We had fish, and we had
hamsters,
fish, gerbils, frog that ate live crickets. Oh my god! I remember going to the store to buy live crickets, and I walk out with a bag that weighs nothing. It's got like things moving,
jumping around. It's
so freaking weird. So I thought we had fish and birds and just like that. But I guess theoretically I like dogs, and when I had the first chance to get a dog, when I was living on my own, I got a dog, and it was a dismal failure because I was at work, from like 7 in the morning. I was out until 6 o'clock. So poor dog would like tear up the place. And I ended up finding a great home for him, but ultimately, no. I mean, I like loved animals, but never had any. And well, basically, I sort of always had this way with like kids, and like I worked with the mentally disabled in Base Ezra in New York. I taught 7th grade in like a Hasidic yeshiva. Wow. I worked in camps and stuff. Like it's weird because I would do that also. I had like regular jobs that were full time, and then like weekends and things like that. So wow. I kind of learned about nonverbal communication from dealing with mentally and physically challenged individuals. I learned about giving everyone individual needs, but at the same time being like demanding, being firm and but fair from the school, from the classrooms. And that's my mantra in life: is firm but fair. You know what I mean? Firm but fair is the way to go, because same thing with raising kids. It's like, great, you have bedtime 8:30. Sorry, it's like, kind of 5 more minutes. Fine, but 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, not 5. And then 5 minutes later, can I have 5 and 3? And so it's like, okay, fair is something got distracted from your iPad, so you lost time because you were doing something else and you lost time on your iPad, and now it's bedtime and you didn't get to play. Fine, take the 5 minutes, take the 15 minutes, and now that's it. After those 15 minutes, it's over. You know what I mean? So that's that from up there. And when I moved here, I came and I was looking for a job in Jerusalem, and one of those personal sites. Django.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Plug out the Django.
Yeah. Thanks, Django. Some guy was advertising. He had a dog business, dog walking business. He had a few clients that he was walking, and he was going back to the States. He needed somebody to fill in, and because the dogs, they're going. They were expecting somebody to show up. Right. So he interviewed a bunch of people, and I was one of the people, and it worked well. The dogs like me. The people like me. I like them. So I started just walking the dogs here in Baca.
Wow. And how did you graduate? Or graduate is the right word, but you'll do, like I said before at the outset, what's your record of how many you've walked?
At once?
Yeah, at once, if you've even counted that.
23.
23 dogs at a time. It's really a sight to see. We'll put it on Instagram or something. And I think I have photos of I've taken a bunch of photos. So how did you come to realize that you could even do that you can do so many at a time? Was it like a gradual process? Or like
definitely gradual? It was a gradual process, because I took as many as I could, but the business needed to grow to get to that where I had that many to take.
Sure. Yeah.
So it started out. This guy had about 4 or 5 clients, and he was taking them an hour at a time. Mm-hmm. And I was married. I was under pressure to get home. So I was like, I don't have time to do 4 hours of walking. I'm just gonna mix everybody, okay? And I actually, by chance, I've been watching some Cesar Millan, and
oh wow,
yeah,
dog whisperer.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. So he had these 2 dogs, and they were just like really like going at it, and he's like shush, and they were both like okay, and I was like, let me try that. The next day, I literally did that, shush you 2, and they stopped, and this big tough scary dog, she was just like chill, and so we went and decided to just like take everybody just to save time. And that worked out to be the best maneuver, because once you're walking with 4 or 5 dogs, everybody assumes you're a dog walker, and then they approach you. So lots of people
walking billboard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Lots of people put advertisements up and they walk 1 dog at a time, and just a lady walking a dog. So I mean, I've had people approach me in the street, get my number, hold up traffic. And I mean, the most bizarre one ever was a woman who was like, "Oh, you do dog walking? Yeah, okay. Here, why don't you take my dog? And I'm gonna go run some errands and go." And she's off
on the spot.
And I'm like, "Yo, what's your phone number? Where the hell do you live?" Like,
oh my gosh.
She's like, "Oh, right."
She probably has like 3 kids just around the neighborhood.
No,
yeah, you take this one. I'll be back in an hour.
Right, some kid who's like waiting for his mom to pick him up.
Do you have clients who like insist, "I want you walking my dog alone" type of thing? Like,
no, I don't do that.
You don't do that.
I do. What I do is, and it's really for clients that have been with me for a long time, is because they have older dogs. I'll take older dogs by themselves, but that's sort of a really short kind of bathroom. Because in the middle of the day, they can't necessarily hold it till the owners get home.
Right.
So I have to do that. So I'll take the whole pack to their house. We'll take the dog. We'll do a short walk with them, and then bring them back and things like that. So, but there's no such thing really as an individual walk.
You have specific hours, or I'm just so curious about this. It's so amazing to me. No, it's amazing that you built a business. I mean, you came to a foreign country and built a business from scratch. It's amazing. So, from scratch. I mean, I guess this guy started.
But he really started.
Took it to a next level. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have like hours, specific hours?
Just late morning until the afternoon, something like 11 to 5.
If somebody wants their dog walked at like midnight, you're like, no way. I
don't do morning walks or evening walks.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a very flexible person, so if it's something that doesn't necessarily make me have to go out of my way, I'll yes those types of requests. Like if they live like a block away from me, and they're having an issue for just a short amount of time, I'll change my life for it. But it won't be for forever. I'm never doing like 6:30, 7 o'clock walks like in the morning. Thanks, no thanks.
Do you have employees, or like is it something you've done?
No, but I'm
content with what you do.
No, I mean, well, the thought is that I don't need the help, so why, holiday time I'll swell up, and I've subcontracted. I've had people help me, but that was just holiday surge, because it's a seasonal business. So it's just there's good times, there's ups and there's downs, like every business, I feel.
Right.
So you got to make sure you cover yourself during the good times, so that when the lean times come, you're good.
Right. And you have dogs of your own, right?
I have 3.
3 dogs and cats, right?
8 cats.
8 cats. Okay.
Yeah, my son, a cat chose my son. So there was no way around that one. And I was like, but my dogs are great, and cats are quite dominant, king of the jungle, right?
You're kidding me.
Cats are king of the jungle. Come on.
If you were to bring one of your cats, because I have a cat, as we know, she's ventured into the video once or twice. So if you brought your dog over, my cat would be cool with it, or take some time to act.
Your cat would not. No.
Okay.
No, your cat would be like away, leering, and then the dog would sense that and kind of be like on high alert, maybe curious and sniffing. But if you got too close to the cat would and the dog would back off.
Really?
Yeah, because we're in closed quarters. Dogs and cats are not natural enemies, but dogs love to chase things.
Sure.
So if they see a cat in the street, it's like, and now you've been inside all day, owner finally got home, now you're out on the walk, you have all this energy, and there's something moving. Let me get it. That's right. What it is. It's not, but in the house, they're very afraid of the cat.
Right.
This shit boxed them out.
It's the same thing at like the nightclub scene.
Yeah.
The guy's been at work all day, and then he finally gets out. He goes to the bar.
It's one hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the guy doesn't drink. That's great. To the guy with the Budweiser shirt on. That's another plug. I'm just racking up sponsors here.
Anyway, so then as the business grew, I just added them on, and I was like, well, if it ever gets too much, I'll stop. But thank God I've been able to handle it, and it's not that many all the time. Again, it's like it surges. The average is probably closer to 14 a day, let's say.
You have a set route, or like just
no, every day is different. And that again keeps it fresh for them. Just kind of like different streets.
Listen to music or podcasts or something when you're too dad to quit, maybe.
So everything. I mean, like, look, I've been doing this a long time, so when you gotta do something at work, so I'll play on my phone. I'll on Facebook. I'll listen. There was a time I was like listening into like shiurim a lot.
Lectures.
Yeah, like like just different lectures, scientific lectures, political, like things like that. Sometimes I just like the silence. I'm not always on my phone, but I just whatever I happen to be watching. Oh, I watch a lot on Facebook. Like Facebook has like Facebook Watch. You know what I mean? Like watch videos, the videos. So that's great. That's entertaining because it's like just from all different walks of life. You can watch a video on like history of I don't know, and then you can watch like a murder mystery, and then you can watch ocean cleanup.
While you're walking the dogs, you said you could do that? Like you could.
Oh well, yeah, because I'm hands free. So
amazing.
Yeah. Meaning they're all tied to his body.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
So there's hooks on your belt or something like that, right? Or how does it work?
Yeah, I used to have the clips on my belt. Now I bought like this harness that clips on the center of the back. But then and then I'll just have the phone to my ear. But it's not so comfortable. So I try, like, I'll do that for just a certain portion of it because like if I'm bored and to break things up. But for the most part, I'm focused on incoming challenges for my dogs because walking a large pack, like, and that's the other thing also, it's like if I have an easy pack, if I have a good pack, then I can use my phone. But if it's like a large pack and it's like I have a lot of young males, sometimes they get real rambunctious and like that's not the time to be distracted. So
I keep thinking of your bar example. I keep getting back to that. Does your son think it's like the coolest thing, or he's like used to it and it's like whatever?
Yeah. Like David Beckham's kid thinks he's the coolest, or like Mick Jagger's kid thinks he's the coolest.
Right. I think it came up in another podcast we did. I think it was Mark Wahlberg was saying that his kids don't think he's anything special. He's not cool. Right? And it's always like that.
Like a corny dad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. That's great. I don't care. But no, he knows. He's aware. Like people, obviously say things to him all the time, and I get spotted without my dogs a lot. So it's so he's used to it. But he thinks it's cool. Like if he stops and thinks about it, he definitely like if you stopped and you talked to him about it, he would give me glowing accolades.
But he probably thinks the skateboarding's cooler. Like I've seen you guys skate. Right, I've run into you a few times where you're skateboarding and
he grew up in. When we first got divorced, he got out of Ghana at 1 o'clock.
Kindergarten.
So I had to go pick him up, and it was right in the middle of my day. And man, stroke of luck, God is good. My sister was here, and she had gone back to the States, and she left a jogger stroller at some random friend, and it's like in the yard covered. And I was like, oh, this is what I need. I retrieved it. And sure enough, that jogger stroller became a staple for a long time because I'd go, middle of my day with my dogs, pick them up from school, and then I had to go bring dogs home. So there are a lot of people who remember me like skateboarding with the jogger and the dogs in tow. So I had a
super dad.
I had a leash connected from the stroller to my belt. And I'm holding it and I'm skating and I got the dogs clipped and we're ripping down Hildheimer, which Hildheimer is a super steep street.
Right.
We're just like, and my son is like, wee.
I've got this like Back to the Future vision, Marty McFly, but with a baby jogger.
And people that know me from my city, they know the guy who's rollerblading kids every morning.
Right.
Rollerblading with a stroller with 3 or 4 kids in it.
Yeah, you have a jogger?
Yeah.
Also?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Stroller, we can shout it out.
Oh, that's
an Up a Baby. I actually have like the person who's head of customer services, her name on like file or like first name, because we got the stroller when we had one kid, and then they built an attachment. So then we got the scooter, the pedal thing on the bottom, the skateboard, whatever it's called. And then we had another kid, and they added a third seat to it. So I was like rollerblading with like 3 kids on it, and one or two on the back.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. I only got into skateboarding. I rollerbladed like forever when I was a kid. Like the minute I put rollerblades on, they didn't come off until I got a car. But I got into skateboarding when I was like 25, I guess. Just to like mess around, you know. I kind of felt I was getting old. I wanted to fight the age.
Stay young.
I was like, you know, falling on the floor on the concrete will keep me young. so I got into skating a little bit, and it turned out also worked out really well because it became a brand. Because even to this day, people in the street would be like, yo, where's the skateboard? And like, oh, I know you. You're the guy with the dogs and the skateboard.
That's awesome.
And I guess I should have worn my shirt, but I even have a shirt and I have a little logo of me with the dogs and the skateboard.
No way.
Yeah,
you made your own shirt?
You have merch.
That's awesome.
I got merch. I don't sell it. I made one order, a bunch of shirts, and I gave them out to clients, just like a thing. But yeah, I paid somebody to design that little logo.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool.
So have you had any famous customers that you can talk about?
Famous? Not necessarily. I've had quite a number of journalist clients. So there's like in the world of journalism, yeah, a couple names that are quite famous that I worked with. But if you're not in that world, it would fly over your head, you know. But outside of that, nobody famous per se. But locally, people known here locally, definitely. Like again, you know, like people who comprise corporations, like big companies like Toshiba. You don't know their names, but they're
right.
Right. So like somebody who would work in a corporation or like,
which makes sense because a lot of these are going to be very busy people. That
I definitely work right. All my clients are professionals and you know high demand, and you know a lot of people will also criticize that and be like, well, they don't have time to walk their dogs, and it's like, no, they're doing the responsible thing. They don't have time for their dog, so they pay somebody to walk it, as opposed to some people who don't have time for the dog, and then the dog is out on the porch barking all day. Oh
wow. Sure. Wow.
In the summertime, it's like,
wow.
Yeah. Do you have any crazy dog walking stories? At one time, a bear walked by, and
I mean, like,
the lady left her dog, even had her name and number.
There's so many. I have so many. I didn't really prepare per se, but like cool things that happened where I was walking in the there's like the valley over here, and I was walking a pack of dogs, probably 6 or 7 dogs, and it just got real quiet. Like everything around got quiet, and I look up, and it's a walking path, and on the right there's a large pack of wild Kanani dogs.
Wow!
And I was like, okay, we're gonna keep walking, and on my left, I see down the rest of the pack of dogs, and you know,
what did you do?
Yeah,
well, I mean, the only thing you can do is you display your intentions, which is I am big and dominant. I am pack leader, but I have no quarrel with you. We're just going to keep walking, and that's what. So me barking to my dogs like, "Let's go," and we walk, and then I'm going at this fast pace that way, and they all see that, so they're just like, all right, whatever, you know. They all watched, but I just, got out. Lost a lot of goats.
Did you learn that tactic in Brooklyn, growing up there?
What's that?
Putting your head down and just walking down the street without looking at anybody.
Yes, it's a little more real with the dogs, because these Kananis they're wild dogs. So, but I mean, I've had all crazy stories. Like we have here, Purim, right? And on Purim I dress up. Generally, I have a costume that has just been a hit for just so many years that I just have to wear it. It's a ghillie suit. It's like what snipers wear in actual combat. So it's not camouflage. It's like stringy Swamp Thing kind of.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah.
Right. And I have a picture with me with the dogs too. So I wear that. I wear it while I work. And one time this girl, she was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool for the car." And she put the car in park. And she got out and she put her arm around me and she had her passenger take a picture of me. But she was in the middle of traffic. It wasn't a red light. It was a yield sign. So the driver, okay, you know. And then crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stories. One time I was skating with a bunch of dogs and we're just ripping down the street. And some guy is following alongside me asking dog advice. And I'm just like, yo, what planet are we on? He said, I have this poodle and he won't stop barking and I don't want to stop him from barking. We're like, bro, we're like
Caesar Milan of Jerusalem.
Like mobile, we gotta be mobile Caesar Milan. So yeah, you know, lots of fun things. You know, rescues, like seeing a random dog, you know, and grabbing it, you know, leashing it until we find the owner. Kitties, I see the cats that get hit by cars, so I call in, you know, to get them cleaned up. I don't know, you know, but what I like most about it really is that it dogs bring out emotion in people. So for good or for bad, dogs are like the minute you see, like kind of like a baby, you know, if you see a baby, you react. There's no like delay. So some people have negative. I get a lot of people who don't like dogs or have bad experiences with dogs or just had a bad day and this emotion surges up and they just have to let it out. So that's not always pleasant. And I'm from New York, so between New York and Israeli.
Let it out on you mean? Like
yeah. I mean, yeah, just like upset. So like
the clients of yours, you mean?
No, randoms on the street.
Random people. Wow.
People on the street, right? So like, I mean, but for the most part, I've had overwhelmingly positive experiences with people, and that's what I love. Like, you know, like because I have the time usually to have a conversation. Sometimes I don't, but you know, and I've talked to, you know, amazing people. Like, spoke to a woman not too long ago, and she was like 80 something, and she just made Aliyah here, and she was remembering her dogs and stuff. So, yeah, we have some good times.
What is it as a cat owner? I'm curious. It seems like there's a lot more people who are more predisposed to loving dogs than cats. Is that your experience too? Like, you know, when I mention cats to people think I'm out of my mind. Why do I have a cat? That's a whole other story, which I got into in another.
Because they're very catty and literally they don't care about your existence. Cats don't care about you. Like if you collapse, they would eat you. You know, the corpse. Right. If I check you, are you alive? And they'd eat you.
They're naturally predators, right?
Well, yeah. Their dogs are predators too, but it's just that I feel like dogs have that relationship of I give and you give. Cats have you give and I take.
I don't know. You don't find that cats show love or express love?
Of course they do, because you can't blanket any of this. I know cats, and also, so that's the other thing. A lot of my clients have, you know, sometimes they have cats, sometimes they have multiple dogs, and that I interact with, and I come across a lot of cats, and yeah, some of them are super loving and caring, but they have to trust you. You have to get in. You know, I don't like, there are cats in the street that will come up to anybody, but I feel like house cats, they're like, this is my cat. And like, so like, I'm here, this is my human, who are you? But I could be wrong, but yeah, I just feel like dogs in general are eager to please. Like they want to please. They want validation for good behavior. Cats don't care at all. Yeah.
Cats just want dinner.
Yeah. But as far as like you were saying about fame, closest thing was we did me and my dog are on a package for some this guy, he had an idea. He had the collar and a man's matching bracelet with the dog's collar. So we posed for pictures, and we're on the packaging. Probably somewhere in India. I don't know. I'll go to Malaysia. They're like, I know you. Your collar sucked and ripped. And then,
speaking of which, yeah.
And then some company did just also kind of like a sit down conversation, infomercial for some product that they were designing. So they had me sit and talk to them just about a whole variety of things pertaining to dogs. So there's a bunch of TikToks of me somewhere, but I don't have TikTok, so I never actually saw them.
I don't know if anybody in our generation gets it. The whole TikTok.
No, I never even saw them.
Yeah.
And then there was one guy who he was the producer for just his job was to come up with content for a public access cable channel. And so they came and they followed me around with a video camera, a bunch of questions for a day. So that's on YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wasn't in it, but there was a student film. That was cool also. There was a student film. There's a place called the Sam Spiegel Institute.
Yes.
Yeah, the Film Institute.
Yeah, big film guys. I definitely know about it. Yeah.
So right. So So the students, they find me once in a while. Yeah. And one time in the film they were making, the boy wants to save a goat. So his mom was like, no. And he's like, come on. So he finds a dog walker and he asks him if he'll walk his goat for him. So right, it was cute. But they needed a dog walker and they needed dogs. So I wasn't the dog walker, but they needed dogs. So we got up at 4 a.m. to do like shooting. So that was really cool, being on set and
that's awesome.
Watching my dogs like cut and then take them back and forth and back and forth.
Right.
So that was a lot of fun.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I like it a lot also because it gives me a lot of free time to be home. I as it is, like we have shared custody and that's not enough. It's really, I try not to think about it when he's not with me because, there's definitely benefits. I feel like, married people have that benefit of having, a relationship, but they don't have that kind of freedom that single parents have, which is where there's shared custody, where you have that freedom for yourself. Because life, life is demanding, and we need time for ourselves as well. So, having time for myself is also important. But I would feel really bad if the time I have with my son, I'm out working also full time. So, I mean, I do work full time, but the hours are such that I'm home and I work in the neighborhood, so I can pass by the house and, also his mom lives real close to me. So if need be, I can be around. I'll run into him on the street and stuff. So that's been good. That was good. Also when we were going through the divorce, because one of the insinuations is that the dad doesn't have enough time. And I'm like, I have plenty of time to make sure that I can be around for my son. Thank you. Yeah. So it was interesting. I mean, I got really, really lucky with the custody because when I could tell things were starting to fall apart. And so she decided she was going to leave. She came to me with documentation agreeing to joint custody. I was like, all right, that's fine, because that guaranteed 50%, right, and no less. So she was working in Tel Aviv at the time, and she did a lot of traveling, and it was hard on her, but so I got a lot extra time in that regard. There were times when she just couldn't make it back and things like that. So we started out, fairly close to halftime, and then she moved to Tel Aviv. And when she moved to Tel Aviv,
and just for audience, Tel Aviv is about an hour's drive from Jerusalem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So she moved about an hour away, and with the assumption that he was going to go with her. Mm-hmm. And I was like, funny thing about this document that was signed in front of a judge, it guarantees me half the time. So if you move, it's not going to happen. So we had to have like kind of an emergency hearing.
Wow.
And the judge was not happy because it was during the summer when they're not usually there. So the caseloads are really heavy on the judges. Only come in for a few days during the summer. So when they come in, they want to like take care of the important stuff and go. And he didn't feel this was really that necessary to deliberate about, because we have joint custody. Why are you moving and taking this kid? Mm-hmm. You can't. Sorry, goodbye. So that basically ensured that. Oh, before he said goodbye, he said the child is going to stay in Jerusalem. So now my ex had to figure it out. But she was living in Tel Aviv and working in Tel Aviv and had her life going in Tel Aviv. So it resulted in, for a number of years, my son lived with me during the week, and then he would go to her on the weekends.
Wow.
And, yeah, so I had the inverse.
So you had them even more.
I had the inverse of what a lot of people have. And also, you know, it's not easy. He would come to me also one Shabbat out of the month, but we had on
Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, and like again, that was honestly my biggest fear when I heard divorce, was that this child is going to be whisked away, and he's not going to know me. He's going to see me on Tuesdays for half an hour, be completely disinterested, and then I'm going to be just like some sort of
rightfully so. That was your expectation,
right? 100%.
Especially based on how your childhood was, also. Right?
It wasn't childhood. It was just more like life experience has taught me that. Like, I mean, I have a friend. His brother drives like 2 hours to see the kids. He sees them for like half an hour, and then he drives 2 hours back. And like, if he's late, forget it. Don't bother coming. And I was really worried that I was not going to be involved in my son's life. And then, on top of that, I mean, I'm not going to insinuate anything, but when there's time away, you know, then the children don't necessarily get to know you, and the only picture that they have of you is one that might be supplanted in their brain about from a sort of personal bias. And that was like, I was like, oh man, I'm never going to. He was young. He was 3. So there was the presumption was that mom's going to, you know, take care of the kid. But I didn't stop fighting. I got a piece of advice that I can't share enough, and I think you know, people should take note of this if they're in this situation where you're going through a divorce right now, some sort of legal custody thing. Somebody really important to me told me to document everything in a journal that you can't take the pages out, like a diary or something, where, you know, all the pages are accounted for, so there's no foul play of, you know, and everything. And when we finally got in front, like, to an actual hearing. It was about it was like 3 years later. It was about 3 years till they saw our case, because they have a very heavy caseload and overworked and underpaid, and government.
This was a hearing involving moving to Tel Aviv. It was more custody.
No, we had them because it was joint custody, and then she wanted it to take him disproportionately. So I put a stop to that, and then they ruled in my favor, and they were like, okay, but now what? Like, this can't stay like this, right? Where we have joint custody, and he's with me disproportionate amount of time. So what was the only next logical step was for somebody to or sue for full custody. So we had a case, and that went through the proper channels, which meant the child services and, you know, lawyers and all that. But it goes at a grindingly slow pace. That by the time we came to the judge, he was already past the tender years of 6. He was about 6. So, you know, and there was so much already there. There was so much precedent that the judge was like, listen, the best thing for the child is to stay where he is. And that's when my ex moved back. Not quite, a little bit after first grade she moved. So I got super lucky in that regard because I was saying about these journals. I showed up to child services with like a stack of books, and I was like, really? There was like, because there was they hear both sides, and you don't know who's telling the truth. Everybody seems believable. But I had documented everything, like anything you could think of, I documented. And the child services were like, they didn't know what to do with that. So they made a recommendation that he stay here, and the judge went with it. So so he stayed here, and my fear of like him not knowing me was, thank God, averted. And I know it's not always like that for everybody. I consider myself one of the rarest cases. And I definitely encourage them to have a good relationship. I would never keep them. So I think there's that harmony in that. I the chips fell more in my favor, so now it's more harmonious.
I was going to ask you. It seems like, like you've managed. You have a civil, amicable type of relationship, despite the, it sounds like there was some stormy water. I'm asking this just for the audience.
Well, no, definitely,
a lot of the guys out there I'm sure could relate. So like there were some stormier waters, but it seems like things have
definitely
calmed down for the most part.
Yeah. And I noticed that I've been working harder at my divorce than my marriage a little bit.
That's interesting.
But
why do you say that? Because
now you have to be civil and peaceful to somebody you don't want to look at.
Wow.
Like I'm sure many people would agree that if there were no children involved, they would never see their ex, never talk to their ex.
Many would agree, I'm sure.
Exactly. So now, with all those sentiments built in, you still have to, for the child's sake, and you have to be an adult about it. There's none of this like, oh, well, she did this and he did that. It's like, keep that away from your kids. I mean, do not, bring your kids into it, because they didn't do anything.
So what's your advice, if you have advice for somebody out there that struggles with that, or that a tip, or is there anything you can share about how you're able to navigate that?
It's very hard, because even while trying to dispel the false narrative that's been built, you can easily fall into the trap of doing it yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that's not true. I never did that, but she did. So you have to be really careful of that. And I'll tell you, it seems kind of elementary, but live the life that you want your child to see. So, and I'll tell you, a breakthrough moment for me with that was one time. I was driving home, and I had my son in the car, and some guy stopped me for something. I guess he was asking for money. And so I gave him some money, and we had like a small exchange, and I drove away. And my son was like, "You're a good person, Abba." And I'm like, "Thank you." And it would not have had the same impact of me unknowingly just living my life in a sense that the values I would want to pass to him, living that. And then he saw it, and he internalized it like, oh, the things I've been hearing don't add up. Because here, he's behaving in a way that is not consistent with somebody who, would be all of these terrible things. So that was really good. So that's really what I would say is, don't fall into the trap of fighting her through them. Don't fight with the ex through the kids, because nobody's going to win there. Doesn't make you look better. Doesn't make the other person look worse. It's just, It's just using the kids for cannon fodder, and it's terrible. So you want to win, be a good person, like help out in the community, you know, do things. You know, I've you know, I've helped out, you know, things in their house, something was missing or they needed, like I don't know what happened, the gas balloon. So I bought her a backup hot plate just so that my son can have food, you know, those types of things.
She'll ask you for
She didn't ask.
Your son tells you. And then...
No, it came up, and I was like, well, why don't I just get you a hot plate? She's like, well, why don't you just get a hot plate? Well, she's like, well, they cost money, XYZ. And I was like, here, just take it, because it's super important for him to see that, again, that I don't hate his mother, that I want her to succeed. So if he sees that, then he won't harbor, you know, I think ill will, you know, anger. Who knows? You know, you never know. You never know what happens, how people turn out. You can have kids that are raised right and they could turn out horrible, and you can have kids raised in the worst conditions and they could turn out great. So it's very much unknown, but you know, I try to.
Are you saying you're able to actually not harbor ill will, or it's something you can sort of let go of each moment it happens for the sake of your son? You know what I mean? Like we were saying before, that if we had the choice, you know, I don't want to say most, many guys, and you know, I'm sure it goes both ways, would not want to be in each other's lives at all if there was no children involved, right?
Right.
But I'm saying, now that there is, you know, when you say not harbor ill will, it's not, in other words, it's not just a show. It's something, it sounds to me like it's something you actually work on in terms of not, you know, I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's all the time, and you know, moments happen. We all know there's, you know, fights come up or whatever, but I'm saying for the most part, it sounds like it's something you really work on, you know, maybe motivated by your, you know, by your love for your son. Is that...
Definitely. Although, you know, I didn't have my heart broken in a sense that like when she left, I kind of felt a sense of relief. So I was like, okay, you more than welcome to go, but you can't take him.
You were married for how long? Just
about 4 years.
Okay, yeah.
We knew each other a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, so it wasn't, you know, like divorces are the result of an unhappy marriage. So it wasn't by any means healthy. So I was happy when it was over. I was like, thank God, because I got relief, you know what I'm saying? But that only fear was that I would lose my son, so I wasn't celebrating. And once I saw that he was more and more in my life, I felt a great sense of relief. And but I wasn't so torn up about her not being there. So any ill will and resentment started to melt real fast, because I was kind of felt liberated. So I don't know. Let me try to put it into words. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't really even think about her when he's with me. You know what I mean? It's just me and him. So it would be a huge waste of time to focus on like any of that. But again, it's been so long. I'm trying to go back into what it was fresh for, like, maybe listeners that are going through something like this. And you know, it's one of those things that's so easy. It's easier said than done, because when you're going through it, everything is raw, everything's fresh. And you know, I guess that's what I would say to people going through this, is that hold out and know that it will like level out, and there will be calmer waters. So don't like build in more problems down the future by by like fighting with the ex through the kids. That's really what it is. So I don't harbor too much resentment for her.
And it sounds like, if there's fear, a lot of guys probably do have that fear that, what's their ex going to say? And I'm not speaking of yours, I'm speaking generally, that a lot of guys, I'm sure, have that fear of what's their ex going to say about them. It sounds like, first of all, it's beyond one's control. And second of all, you can be a model for what you want to be and what you want your child to see. So you don't have to worry about the other stuff. And you're not going to win it, so to speak, not win it, but you're not going to.
Right. No, I definitely also like used logical reasoning to get out of those types of situations, in a sense of like, okay, you heard that, but here is all of these things that show you that that's not correct, right? Okay, good.
Yeah, but not every that may be the relationship you have with your son,
right?
But not everybody. So I'm just curious for those whose children may not be as verbal about that. Mm-hmm. I've met your son a few times. He's very bright, and not I'm not saying the listeners' kids aren't bright, but they may not have that relationship where the kids aren't necessarily communicating like, oh, well, I thought you're this way or that way. It sounds to me like what you're saying, tell me if I'm wrong, is that you can sort of combat that fear by just modeling who you want to be, and the kids will pick up on that naturally.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No, absolutely. Yeah. That's for sure.
That's what I was getting from what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like being the dad that's there. Yeah. That's what they remember. Absolutely.
Love that.
Like being the calm one. Really being calm, staying calm, and putting your focus to your kids, because again, it's like there's so much energy put into a marriage and a divorce and custody. So at some point you're past the point of no return. So just put that energy into making sure that your kids are taken care of. Like with all the changes, new apartments, new houses, new schedules, they should be first.
Speaking of putting your kids first, we like to highlight your too dad to quit moment, the time when you felt as proud as you could be as a father and a dad, and you were like, man, I am super dad. We really like to highlight those moments.
Yeah, so there were quite a few. I think one of the most accomplished moments I had was when he was really young. Before he wasn't completely toilet trained, and I pulled off a diaper change in the middle of the night without waking him. So then, yeah.
That is amazing.
And it was a full diaper. Let me tell you. And I felt like super dad then. That was cool. But just like, like just like building tents and making campfires and teaching him all those things, but like things that stand out, like having the materials for this week for his school, having both of the things he needed, being the only one in the class. I mean, I was like, yo, you're rocking that. But not too long ago, I had something that should have made a real impression on him in his life, because I had given him, I pay a certain amount of child support, right? And he was going to his mom for the week, and I sent him along with it. And it's very rare. And then we normally never do this. We usually do it face to face. I give her the money, she gives me a written receipt, and we're all good. But for whatever reason, it worked out, and I'm happy it worked out this way, because I gave him the money, he went to her, I guess this was like I don't know, whatever, at the beginning of the week. And that was it. I didn't think anything of it. Her and I were messaging, and she's like, by the way, there was some money missing. And I was like, well, I counted it twice, so you must have dropped it, right away. You must have dropped it. Well, I didn't count it wrong, that's for sure. So we didn't think anything of it. A few days later, my son was telling me about how he went to the store with his mom and he was buying all of these things and he bought her some junk food or something. And I was like, huh, where'd you get the money? And he's like, he had a whole elaborate story. He found it on the way home from school. And when he said that, something clicked in me, like a little light bulb went off. Because when I was his age. I had found some money. It was my sister's. I took it from her coat. I took a $20 bill from her coat one morning before school, and after school, now I wanted to spend it, and I had to come up with a story. So I said I found it on the way to school. So that's when it all came together. That it was too coincidental that she was missing some money, and he had found money. So I asked him about it, and he denied it. He said he found it, and definitely not. So I knew that I had to approach it in the right way, and arguments happen over little details, like so you can never get to the center of the argument when you're arguing about details. So what I did was I just kind of questioned him, like sort of like a detective. I got all the information, and then I went back and I questioned him. So so I was like, really interesting, because on this day, and that was the other thing. He said he found it during the day when he was with me, and I was like, well, why wouldn't you tell me that? That seems like a milestone in life. It's the first time you ever found money. Right. That's quite a bit of money, and you didn't say anything. You kept it real quiet. So. So I had picked him up from karate, and I was driving him back to his mom's house, and we got there, and he got out, and I said, listen, I have a lot of clients, and I have the keys to a lot of the houses, and I have the codes and all these things, and the only way it works is because of trust, and trust is super important in relationships, and if you don't have trust, it all falls apart. And then I went on to tell him that at his age, I did the same thing with I took some money and I claimed I found it. And I said, I'm sure the temptation was great. I know it's tempting. Temptation, this is real life. You don't expect it. People say like, oh, temptation. You don't know when it's going to sneak up on you. So I said, I'm sure the temptation is really good. Like, was really strong, but we need to have trust between us. And he said, it's like, yeah, I took the money. And I was like, awesome. Thank you for letting me know. This is what I need to know. We're going to pay that money back. And he apologized, and he was humbled after that. And I think that was a really good thing. But it taught me also that, like, I can't neglect the fact that he needs money, right? So he's a kid. He goes to school. He passes by the ice cream shops and the pizza shops, and everything costs money. And I realized that I wasn't giving him an allowance. Like if he needed money for something, I would get. If he needed something, I would buy it. If he didn't have spending money, he got maybe from a family member a holiday gift. But so ever since then, I give him at the beginning of every week. I give him it's the equivalent of about $12. I give him 50 shekel. And whether he's with me or with her, I give it to him at the beginning of every week, so he has a little cash. And then he doesn't, he knows again that to come to me, that I'll make sure that his needs are taken care of. And the most important thing is that he can trust me with real life things like stealing. You know what I mean?
And you were firm but fair.
Firm but fair. I see that. I didn't shame him. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Like, going down the road of fire and brimstone, it's like just not the way kids learn. So
definitely not these days, if ever. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So firm but fair. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna happen again. You know what I mean? And of course, I was on the hook to pay his money. I had to pay.
Well, didn't you just tell her it's all your son's fault? It wasn't my fault. Throw him under the bus.
Well, that's the thing.
But that's really great.
I wanted to show him that I'll still be his superhero. And I said, because yeah, technically we should have ate that, and she should have, but I was like, I'll pay it, and then you'll work it off. And then I handed it to him, and he had to go hand it to her.
That's an amazing story. Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when my daughter was my oldest was young, 2 maybe. I don't know. I looked at her and I realized something clicked in me that like every possible moment is a teaching moment. Like some people just stick their kid in front of a screen or don't even talk to them or spend the time to listen to what they're saying. And something clicked in me that like if you listen to them, there are lessons to be taught, and anything can be turned into a life lesson.
So I learned that from older people, like grandparents. Why is grandma and grandpa so favored by the young kids? Because they will listen to the most long, drawn out, and inane stories about who knows what forever. And then, oh, really, sweetheart? Did you, oh, what else did you do? You know what I mean? And if I catch myself, just kind of like getting sick of a story, I really stop myself and be like, I try to picture myself, like a little like silver-haired grandma in a pink cardigan. To just kind of like,
you can be a grandpa too, by the way.
I'm telling you. And I'm telling you, he has verbalized it. Like, thank you for listening.
Wow.
Yeah, my father, when I had my first kid, he said to me, just listen to them. They'll tell you what they need. They'll tell you what you want. And I really took that to heart.
Yeah.
Not that he did that for me when I was growing up, but he did learn that in the next iteration of children. He did learn that.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you for
this was great.
Awesome. Yeah, really amazing takeaways. Yeah.
Amazing. And for all of you listening, I hope you enjoyed. And we want to hear your story. We want to share your story. Please reach out to us, toodadtoquit.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Please reach out to us in any way you can. If you know anybody that would benefit from this, please share it with them. The word is getting out, the numbers are going up, and we really, even if we help one person or one couple decide not to break it off, again, we're just here to help and share these stories, and we're really enjoying this process. And the feedback is great. And there's actually a feature where you're able to actually leave a voice note, and we're happy to get that into the episode and share your comments. And please
do you answer questions?
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine there's a little bit of a delay, but maybe people that have specific questions.
Exactly.
So that's the other thing. I don't know really who to turn to when I have parenting questions. So, like what I do is I try to find somebody in my mind who I'm like, who would I want to?
Right,
who would have been stable? Who's got stable?
Comes here, it's like, not Yoel, that's for sure.
You got kids, they got kids, and everyone seems to be doing all right. And so friends, parents, some clients that are just that they got it together.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's great.
And so, and I know what it's like to not have a support system. I mean, like, single moms, they get a lot of sympathy, and I understand that it's not easy to be a single parent, but I mean, I didn't feel anything but contempt from the community. Like, you go to the park, and there's all the moms on the bench. It's like, I'm not going to sit with all the moms and gossip with them because I'm the enemy in their eyes. You know what I'm saying? Because one of their teammates is against me. So
I think Ben would say that was one of the reasons for this brainchild.
Yes,
too.
I mean, I think I got like people who were like friends, and they stopped inviting me and stuff. And I was like, I didn't understand it.
Been there,
like,
done.
Oh, you're a bit of a moody cow. It's like, really? Because I'm going through a divorce and a custody battle, and zero support system because I'm in a foreign country, and like now I'm not going to be invited to meals because of that. It was really difficult.
I've spoken about this a lot.
Support. I had zero support.
Everything just, you're really, I think we have it on our website. Just you're building this from scratch, almost from scratch.
That's exactly why we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had no one to help me with my son to pick him up from school. If I was a single mom and I went to the group chat and I was like, somebody help me. I feel like I would have gotten a lot more support. And like, I'm not taking it away from people that need the support.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that there's a very serious underappreciation for, single dads that need that help. I mean,
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, like I said, it's great for women that need those resources. And I think what you're saying is that there's a lot of men that need those resources.
I feel like the community it already has a lot of resources for single moms built in, whether or not they are active and they're in full steam, like full use, but at least they're there. I don't think there's anything for dads.
Yeah.
There's
yeah. I mean, even even in the religious community, there's the schools a lot of times will send girls from high schools or whatever to help out single moms. I remember speaking to them, they're like, well, we can't send to you because you're a male.
Right.
And I get it from their religious views. I'm not going to argue with that, but it's these sort of things that there's that just lacking that sort of equilibrium there. So that's one of the things we're working to sort of help the community at large understand that the men, we also we're human. We support each other, and we all need support.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the old world thinking that men are not supposed to have any type of emotion and just supposed to take the abuse and shoulder on and just dude, this is not the Industrial Revolution. You know what I mean?
Singing to the choir, I could I think every guest we've had until now has talked about how they've cried at times of their divorce and whatever, and I always talk about it with ad nauseum. That's some would say necessary, but everybody's built differently. But yeah, I mean, there's feeling emotion. Guys feel emotions. There's no sort of macho-ness and machismo, whatever the word is, in trying to say I don't care and I don't have emotions or anything like that.
Right.
I don't think that's cool.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that that's kind of falling apart. The facade that men, don't need the support, don't need the help. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Thanks again. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for doing this. Amazing. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Too Dad to Quit podcast. Available at toodadtoquit.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.